Good Sunday morning to you wherever you are. Well, especially if you're in the southern hemisphere. No, actually, not necessarily because it's a global world clock, isn't it? If you're in the Eastern Standard Time region of Australia, good Sunday morning to you. The final Sunday. No, actually, it's the first of September, the first Sunday of a new month, and spring. Finally, winter's behind us. Okay, this is going to be a very special, special and different video. I'll try not to keep it too long, so let's get started. When my grandfather was with us, this is my grandfather on my mother's side, in my youth when I visited him in Indonesia on vacation. Again, that's very spontaneous. It was spontaneous idea. I asked him, could he write kind of like a summary of his family, like immediate family, and also advice for, you know, my generation and the generations to come. I'm going to read it now. It's in this. It's just in a notebook. It happens to be called High Campus. It's nothing to do with what my grandfather wrote. He handwrote it. It's handwritten in Indonesian, so I can't read that. But it was translated to English by his son-in-law at the time. Alas, his son-in-law's also passed away. Those generations above me, one by one, they're passing on. I won't read anyone's names, and clearly I'm not going to read it all because it's obviously personal. I want to respect people's privacy, even though himself and his wife have passed away. I don't think there's really any need to say their names. Those of my relatives that are watching this or may watch this, future generations of my family who may watch this, or just the casual audience of mine, I think you'll maybe take something out of it. My grandfather, when he was alive, and is remembered for being the pillar and foundation of the general relatives. The family tree. He's definitely the trunk of the tree, and we're all the little branches. I mean, you probably think that's natural because he was a grandfather, but no, his status, his legacy lives on. He was a philanthropist in many ways. I'd say he was the biggest income earner of the whole family, and he helped relatives go through university and high school, any sort of education. Well, not any education course, where he can help you get an education and set yourself up, for independence and life. He was the one to do it. So whenever I went to Indonesia, I was always treated like royalty because I was his grandson, or one of his many grandchildren. But by treating me well, even if it's just treating me to a meal, it was their way of paying respect and thanks to my grandfather, which I thought was amazing and quite humbling. So this is great because this is part of his legacy. We could remember him, of course, in our hearts and minds, but on paper I've got his work. I'm obviously going to read the English translation, so let's get started. And again, I'm only going to mention if my name's mentioned, obviously, because I requested this, but other people's names I'll just refer as, my grandfather or grandmother or auntie, and not mention any names. Okay, here we go. This is my grandfather's words, translated by his son-in-law, so there might be a little bit of a discrepancy, but we'll get there. At the request of my grandson Ivan, I write that short story of my life as follows. I was born in Blitar on the 4th of July 1912. My wife, my grandmother, in also Blitar. Sorry, it was crossed out. Must have been a mistake. Sorry, start that sentence again. My wife in Blitar on the 17th of October 1912. We were married on the 17th of December 1932 in Pari. It's another town in Indonesia. I fell in love with my wife when I was 17 years old. In fact, it was too young for me and her to get married at that age. This was 56 years ago at the time that he wrote this. And at the time, it was normal for young couples to get married while still being teenagers. I didn't finish my education at secondary school. After the wedding ceremony, I began to work as a salesman of a cigarette factory that was owned by my father, your great grandfather. At the time, I opened a shop that sold sporting goods. In Blitar, I was very popular. I was very popular because I play tennis and soccer very well, so I have many customers that will come to my shop. I had to sell one cigarette and sporting goods in the whole. Sorry, I had to sell cigarettes and sporting goods in the whole East Java, one of the islands of Indonesia. I traveled in a station wagon full with clove cigarettes and sporting goods. In each city or village, I have one agency. My father's name, gives his father's name and his mother's name. Both are already passed away. My grandmother's father, and he gives the name and the parent's name. Altogether, my grandfather had a total of 12 brothers and sisters. Only 4 are still alive today, and they list them, but sadly, yeah, they're also passed away already. This was written in my youth, mind you, so I would have been anywhere from, at a guesstimate, maybe 10 years old to 13. So, yeah, many decades ago now. And he lists them all. He lists his siblings, and then going down to here. Your grandmother and myself have 2 daughters and 1 son. And then he lists them as well, and also their children and grandchildren. Yeah, so that's them. Go on. Plus they have one, at the time, 1 great-granddaughter, which since he's, there's more, but he's, they've both passed away. Since 1912, my grandfather lived in Blitar. In 1947, he and his wife moved to Malang and lived in the address there. We have lived more than 40 years in that address. The late, he's talking about a great-grandfather, was a wise, helpful, and a very friendly person. I loved him very much. I always hope I'd be like my father. Each son or daughter received a house from that great-grandfather. So he mentions he has a house in Malang. One of his siblings has a house in also Malang, and another address, and another sibling of his in Surabaya, another city in Indonesia, and another city in Indonesia, Bandung. My grandmother and grandfather are very happy to be able to give a gift in the form of houses to our daughters and sons, and he lists where those houses are and how he's helped. Going on here, since I was young, I liked to play tennis and soccer. Once in 1932, I succeeded to be a tennis champion in the whole East Java, and also with my friend, he mentions the name, from Blitar, we succeeded to be tennis champions in the doubles match of the whole of Malang. Unfortunately, that person is now his friend, who's a tennis player also at the time, has passed away some years ago in China. I have as an idea since I was young to help everyone who needed any help, especially the poor people. In 1961 and 1964, he established 2 social organizations with the following names. I suppose it's okay. Oh, sorry, that's my air fryer going off there in the background. Don't worry, not a fire alarm. I guess it's all right to mention these organizations. Hopefully they're still running today. I'm not sure. If I pronounce it correctly, Yayasan Keluarga Social Organization for Relatives, and the second one listed is Yayasan Beasiswa Bakti, organization who gives scholarship to students who need help. Pardon the pronunciation there. Each organization had a committee, and I was the chairman of both organizations, plus a secretary and a treasurer. Wow, multitasking there. Yayasan Bhakti gave every month money to support the students to pay their school fees. Each student received, this is in Indonesian, pardon me, Indonesian currency, rupiah 2,000. That amount is not enough in today's time, but 15 years ago it was adequate. Around 1967, my grandfather built a dormitory in, that name's the street address. The students who stayed in Malang and who got the support of the organization had opportunity to live there for free. I think it's meant to be free. It says fee, but I think maybe a small, fee. But the majority was paid by my grandfather. At that time, there lived about 10 students. The organization in total helped about 100 students. Most of them finished their study. Among them are doctors, engineers, architects, law degrees, master or arts. With that result, I was very happy, but the situation had changed because I had not enough money to maintain the organization. At that time, I needed money too, so I was forced to sell the dormitory. The buyer was from the Catholic Church in Kediri. It is ideal for a married couple to have a family that is united, harmonious, that love one another, forgives one another, and appreciates that has sons and daughters with good characters and who love, just 2 pages to go, good characters and who love their parents. According to my grandfather, we have such a family. That is my auntie and uncle who have since passed away. He describes them as a good wife, a good husband, good son and daughters, and a lovely granddaughter. Of course, in each family there is always shortcomings. Please, Ivan, remember that not only money can make someone happy in his or her life, but there are other aspects. In this world, no one is perfect, only God is perfect. Ivan, you are already, well, here we go. I underestimated my age at the time I've asked him to write this. Ivan, you are already 17. Next year you will be an adult. My grandfather estimates in your character it should consist of the following. He numbers them, so let's just read them out as listed. Number 1, you love your parents very much. Number 2, you love your grandfather and grandmother, and also my grandmother on my dad's side and other immediate relatives. You are very friendly to everyone. You have a good character. You love children very much. At school, your result is good enough. And number 7, don't discriminate between rich and poor people. You're only... I don't mind sharing this. This is honestly how we thought at the time. Your only weakness is that you are too dependent on your parents. Next year you will be a student who enters university, and so to become independent and have success in your life. From now on, do your best to help yourself in everything and not depend on your parents. Much discussions with your parents is necessary. Beside that, it is your duty to look after my brother. My grandfather and grandmother are very proud to have you as our grandson. Years ago, my grandfather was much richer than now, but I feel I am happier now than before. Last page, it's only half filled. My grandfather still has 2 villas in Bunten. That's another small town in obviously driving distance from Malang. When he says villas, they're holiday homes, vacation homes. I rent out those 2 villas, and from the income I use it for housekeeping money. Later on, when we are already old, we want to grant the 2 villas to his 3 children. So my auntie, uncle, and my mum, who've all 3 of them have passed away since then. All their family are proud to know that the late, he's talking about his father, passed away. I'm pretty sure it's either his father or my grandmother's father, who passed away in the year 1963 when he was, he's only 39 years old. Wow. During 20 years he was still tennis champion in the whole of Indonesia. I wonder if that's accurate. 39 is quite young to have passed away. Anyway, his last few lines are my grandfather wishes that you study hard so that you can reach your goal in your life. God be with you, my brother, my mum, and my dad. Your dear grandfather, right there. And the date, oh, here we go, I've got the date. So it was written in Malang, that's where he lived at the time, the 15th of January 1988. So, yes, I was 17 at the time. Wow. Long ago. Long ago. Yeah, there we go. So, um, most of my relatives are Roman Catholic in faith. Um, Although, as I'm aware, Indonesia, the majority religion is Muslim, and I think we might have one or two or a handful of relatives who follow the Muslim faith, but the majority are Catholics. That's why he mentions God a few times throughout that story. Oh, sorry, getting a bit emotional. I was quite close to all my grandparents. I never really got to know my dad's dad, my father's dad. Um, but yeah, the rest of them, yeah, I was close to. So my dad's mother and the parents of my of sorry, the mother of my dad and the parents of my mother. Yes, um, yeah. I look forward to seeing them. Despite me going on about I just didn't like it as a child, and I still don't like it or as a teenager, because Indonesia's right on the equator. It's hot all round. The seasons are either wet or dry, and it's hot throughout the year. So I know when I stayed there, got air conditioned houses, air conditioned cars for transport, air conditioned malls and restaurants and whatnot. But at some point, you have to be outside. I know it's not hot. The heat varies during the day. Clearly, if you know later at night, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it's a bit cooler. And clearly, if you walk around at high noon, it's going to be the hottest part of the day. Anyway, and different parts of Indonesia are cooler. I've enjoyed not reading, watching vlogs on YouTube of visitors to Bandung, for instance, and they remark that the climate is slightly cooler than other cities such as Jakarta or Surabaya, for instance. Anyway, there you go. So, if any relatives are watching this, I hope you got something out of that. He did list, I think he's talking more my grandmother's siblings when he lists, like, I think there's about 17 of them. Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of brothers and sisters. I assume he collectively called them his brothers and sisters as well, because everyone's family. But the list of that long list of siblings was my grandmother, his wife, and he has only one or two siblings, I think, from memory, that I read there. So he's just got a brother and a sister. I'd say they both passed away already too. Those older generations have had their time on Earth. Yes, and onward we go. So, how long have I been talking? Almost 20 minutes. I'll stop there. Let's take a drink to my late grandfather. Yeah, the literary request I had of him, I'm grateful, if you can call it hereditary or taken from my mother. She was into literature. I don't believe she wrote anything herself in terms of, even poetry, or maybe she did, but she never showed me. But she loved reading books, various books, newspapers at the time, paper newspapers, like made out of paper before the internet, exploded and got popular. And she was into history as well. So, yeah, documentaries and things. So, yeah, I suppose asking my late grandfather to write this was maybe a merging of my literary interests. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I find it easy, like, to change lyrics. Like, I get inspired by Weird Al Yankovic, I still do, and there's a handful of videos of mine which I either change lyrics, like of Kylie, into some comical lyric result. Nothing to disparage Kylie or the lyrics I'm changing, of the artists I'm changing, but yeah. I keep a paper diary as well, but with YouTube it's become like a video diary. I know it's not really literary in that sense, but it's an audience I'm connecting with, which I never thought I'd do. So I can only imagine. It'd be amazing if my grandparents were still alive. They'd be very, very old. But I wonder what they'd think of my YouTube channel if they were still with us. Or my mother, for instance. Yeah. Yeah, so that's all. I just wanted to share that. Again, keeping privacy of anyone's names, including my father, mother, and my brother. I hope you so got something out of it. My grandfather's personality. I mean, no one's perfect, as he said, but it's definitely other than remembering him for his philanthropy and generous donations and helping people of the family and others outside the family. He's considered wise, friendly, quite humble, not at all boastful. Not saying, oh, he's told me the organizations now. I know he's got at least 2 that he helped or set up, but he never went around, blowing his own trumpet. Definitely not. That's not my grandfather, not my late grandfather's personality. And yeah, preferably he would have done all this without people. Well, I want to say without people knowing. Like people would know if he helped you. Or helped your children go through university, you would know where the money came from. But he wouldn't be like, hey, did you get my money? Like, make sure you thank me. I want something in return. No, not at all. No, so humble and so giving. It's really inspirational, actually. Yeah. So there you go. That's my late grandfather's. Would you call it? Not really memoirs. My request to have him write a little bit about his life and his advice for the future generations of our family. So anyway, now I'm talking over 20 minutes, so let's wrap it up. Again, here's to you, my late grandfather, and green tea, by the way, apparently good to maintain blood pressure if you've got high blood pressure like me. I bid you a good rest of your Sunday if you're in Australia. And if you're overseas somewhere, it'd probably be Saturday, I imagine, or late Saturday, or maybe a very early Sunday morning, 1 a.m. somewhere. Okay, thank you for tuning in again to one of my uploads, and until next time, good day to you all, or good night.